Hey everyone. I wanted to just go through instead of standing in front of the class and having to deal with you guys and like a classroom management issue and um, what I thought we would do instead of a straight up lecture is again we'll do a PowerPoint video. So today's PowerPoint video is going to be pretty short. Um, Basically, we're going to talk about North Dakota taxation. I have government on there, but we don't really talk about government in the slideshows. So we'll get started. North Dakota taxation. So what taxation is as it says, taxes are money that a government may withhold from people for government services. So what happens is your parents, or even just somebody who earns over a certain amount of money, they they show that they earn, say, $1,000, but some of that money is taken out for taxes. Services such as taking care of roads, grants for schools, um, just various governments things that are provided. Services for families that don't have enough money, childcare services, childcare for forgiveness services. So like some of the cost of childcare can be deferred for people or taken away. Um, since taxes have been levied or given to people, there's always a debate on how people should be taxed and what should be taxed and what shouldn't be taxed, and everybody has their own opinion, and usually they're different. It's an ongoing debate, and it's going to keep being debated throughout the time in history that we have taxes, because anytime we have it, people have an idea of what should be taxed and what shouldn't. And some people don't believe in taxes paying government the money at all. So you have so many different views. Whereas like income tax came around in the I think early 1900s. That's really where all this started, and we'll talk about income tax here in a second. Uh, in North Dakota, we have both state and local taxes. Okay, so the state taxes go to things like state highways. So, like Highway 281 west of Oaks, that goes all the way, I think, goes all the way down to Texas and all the way up to Canada. That is a state highway. The taxes we pay to the state would upkeep that highway. I 94. Some of it would be state, or it wouldn't be a state highway, but we would use state money to take care of our portion of that highway. Or I-29 to go to Fargo, same thing. Um, Local taxes like township taxes, even county taxes, would go to things like county roads, county grants, just whatever the county government would want it for. So like those gravel roads, if you live out in the country, that run by your house, are either county or township roads. Most of the time, the more people that live in the township, the better taken care of the roads in the township are, simply because more tax money is coming in to take care of it. Same with the county. More people that live in a county, the better the roads are usually, because there's more taxes going to those things. Other things that taxes go to is things like education, things like uh, plots land. If you know what plots land is, the licenses, and not necessarily taxes, but the licenses you buy to hunt and fish go to things like plots land or conservation services. Just there's so many things that taxes pay for. The taxes are the government's sole way of getting money. They don't hold fundraisers. They don't go. They don't have a store. Taxes are the way that government gets money. Types of tax. So basically, you have three types of tax in any state you're going to look at. You have sales, income, and severance taxes. Or severance taxes, or in North Dakota especially, severance would be like a property tax. So you have these three types of taxes. There's some states that don't have all three types of taxes. where they might only have sales and income tax but not a severance tax, or they may have sales and severance tax but not an income tax. Texas is a good example of that. Texas does not have state income tax. Sales tax. Sales tax is something, if you would go to, say, Shields, the price may say $20 on something, but in North Dakota, we have a 5% sales tax. That would actually be on $20. It would be what, $250? I think, I don't know if my math is right. Don't quote me on that. If it was $100, it would be $5. So you have taxes on most every good that you buy. So it's sales tax is number one. It's the tax on the sale. It should say or consumption of goods. Like it says there, you can have state or local. Sometimes, you'll go into a city and they might have the state tax plus a local sales tax. Say they're raising money for a new stadium, or a new building to go up, or to clean up to hire more police officers or something like that. So they could implement a sales tax to get that, to drive the price up a little bit, and then the money goes back to them. Excuse me. So if you go to Shields in Fargo, you're going to have that sales tax. But if you would actually go over to Shields in Moorhead, there is no sales tax in Minnesota. So if something says $20, they're going to charge you $20. Whereas in North Dakota, you have that tax. And so in Minnesota, any place you go, there is no sales tax on the goods that you are buying. Income tax. You pay income tax at a federal, state, and local level. Income tax is called a progressive tax because it always depends on how much you earn. Sales tax would be something that is called a regressive tax, a tax that it doesn't matter how much money you make, because you pay the same amount of sales tax on a good as a poor person would. A rich person pays all the same amount. Income tax, progressive, because it depends on how much you earn. Typically, the more money you earn, the more money you're going to probably pay out. So if you, say, earn $100,000 a year and the tax rate is 25%, of that $100,000, you'd pay $25,000. If you earn $50,000 and the tax rate is 25%, it would be half that. Half of that price of, or half of that tax that the person who earned $100,000 paid. So income tax at a federal level came into play in the early 1900s. Basically, if you see a check, or you get a check for working, they'll show that on there, but you never see that money. It automatically will come out of your account. So, if you are a private business owner, a farmer, or something like that, you would actually have to pay some of that income tax into the government. And then number 3 is called a severance tax. Severance tax and property tax kind of group into the same thing, although they're a little bit different. Severance tax is a tax collected from things taken from the soil. One good, like a fossil fuel, like oil, would be taken from the ground, so you would get charged on a tax to take that out of the ground. During the oil boom of the late 2000s here, a few years ago, we made a lot of money on severance taxes. We taxed the oil companies for taking oil out of the ground in western North Dakota, and because of that, we have some reserve money that we've been using lately, because North Dakota has ran at a deficit. Like I told, I can't remember which class I told, it's really unique though that North Dakota, before their legislature is adjourned, they have to balance the budget, but that may mean pulling from some of our savings to balance that budget. Local taxes. Most of your local taxes and local monies come from property tax. Most funds are local. Your main source of income in a school is property tax or something called mills, which we'll get to in a second. But property tax is one of your main funding sources for local schools. And typically, if you have a more affluent or richer area, you're going to have more services than a poorer area. Now, at the bare minimum, everybody is equal, but some of the amenities or perks that you get for going to school in a bigger, larger, more richer area, the schools will be treated better, or you'll have more things in the country. So you farmers, you are a little different than us city folk. The way you pay taxes is you have something called tax equalization. So basically what happens is a formula comes down from the state paid tax assessors from NDSU, and they what they do is they determine how much somebody will take in property taxes. And what they do is they send that information to the local tax equalization people, and then you have a meeting and they basically just discuss how your farmland is going to be taxed from year to year. That can change. It depends on how much farmland you have, what happened to the farmland, if it's usable, if it's not usable, and there's so many factors that go into it, and it's a complicated formula. But basically tax equalization just says this is how much you're going to pay in taxes, and it equalizes, or it's spread out throughout the county. And then if you're non-farmland like us city folk, you're taxed locally you're taxed by something called a mill. And basically what a mill is it's a 1/10 of a cent. And the local government is required to give, to actually tax you. So you're not going to ever have where you have 0 mills. You're required to be taxed. And that money, again, just it's local taxes. We are not going to pay near as much as, say, a farmer in property taxes or mills, because we don't own that same amount of land. But that is how non-farmland is taxed in North Dakota. In a city like Oaks, our mill levies are fairly low, whereas in places like Fargo, you're typically going to have more mills in a place like Oaks, because you're going to need more things in a bigger city. So non-farmland taxed by mills, and then farmland is taxed by basically a meeting and a formula that gives tax equalization, and it shows each farmer how much they have to pay in taxes. So that's the end of your slideshow. Make sure that you get your questions done, and have a wonderful day.